Well, hold on. Since we mentioned COVID, I just want to give you an idea of what it's like to have a baby in the COVID world. So hospital is pretty much a ghost town for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we came in early in the morning, but 0 people in the ER. There was 2 people on staff, one that checked us in, make sure that we were all good, temperatures, masks, etc.
Before we could even get into like the real hospital part.
And this is in the ER. So we go up to the triage desk. Since we had already pre-checked in, so we were on the list. They confirmed it was who we were, and then they let us almost immediately back into the labor and delivery area. And then finally, we got to see a nurse. We only saw like 1 or 2 nurses the entire time. It was pretty quiet the entire time, except we heard other laboring around the halls, which is a story we'll get into in a minute. But all in all, it was still a great experience. Obviously, having masks is a hindrance, but we understand, and we were trying to be safe, not only the hospital staff, but for ourselves. Thankfully, she tested negative, and I've been next to her 24/7, so I think they assumed that since she was negative, I was also negative.
We didn't have any signs or something.
I kept my mask on anytime staff was in the room. She was on and off about it. She just had a baby. I think they gave her a lot of slack and grace there. But really, truly, don't be scared if you're pregnant right now and about to have a baby during this COVID pandemic. It's really not as scary as you think. We were worried it was going to just ruin the entire experience. I promise it's all okay. The hardest part is not being able to have your family and stuff visit you in the room. But an alternative that my family did was they were out in the parking lot, and so I was able to go out, say hi to them, show them photos of Remy after she was born, and share it with them, and then FaceTime Rochelle while she was still in the room. And yes, it's digital, it's not exactly the same, but it's not nearly as bad as you think. So don't let that stress you out. You have enough to worry about pushing out a healthy baby and being healthy and being there with your partner. So if you have one, don't stress, it's okay. It stinks in some aspects, it's actually really cool. I liked having the privacy and not having anyone in the room the whole time. That's just me.
We'll get into that.
But we'll get back into it. I just want to address that since we talked about it, if you're worried. So, continue.
Okay, back to the story. So we
Finally tested positive.
Yes,
We got it.
finally tested positive. We are having a baby, and it's 4:30, 5 o'clock. Remy's in the monitor right now in the other room asleep.
She's in her crib.
What was I gonna say? Oh, and so the nurse is saying oh yeah, you're in the hospital, you're gonna have this baby, and then all of a sudden we hear the screams of somebody getting their arm legit chopped off.
Well, it was funny. So how it worked out, getting to that point was, they said, okay, you're here, you're in labor, we're gonna let you basically hang out until you're dilated enough to push out a baby. Okay, that's the part where they don't tell you there's a lot of downtime in that part.
Yeah.
In my brain, active labor was
You're
you're
pushing
pushing
out a
the whole time. And so when people were saying I had active labor for 32 hours, I'm thinking you're pushed for 32 hours? I had no idea. No, we had a lot of sitting around waiting for her to get dilated. So they turned off the lights. It was really nice. The hospital that we were at had kind of a couch for me, so I was able to, I'll say, rest. I didn't really get to sleep because I also wanted to be awake while she was having contractions, make sure she was okay.
Because I was in a natural labor for 5 hours.
Yeah. And so during this time, we finally started to get a little bit of I would say relaxation, just coming to terms with everything and enjoying the peace before the storm. And yeah, I think if I were to picture someone getting murdered or about to be murdered, these are the screams that I would picture in my head. And it jolted me, and I'm trying not to react to it because I don't want to stress Rochelle out more because she's about to go through this. We don't know if this lady's had an epidural, if it's natural, if it's whatever.
I'm delusional. I'm are we in the ER? Where are we going?
Yeah.
What is going on?
So the nurse comes back in, and we're kind of laughing about oh my gosh, is that what's about to happen? And she's no. This certain mom, this is her 3rd child. She's had all of her children 100% natural, which more power to her.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But wow, that was terrifying. She was and the nurse said, if you end up getting an epidural, 90% of that you're not going to experience. There is still some, and you might expect some pressure, blah, blah, blah. But man, that was a relief to hear that it wouldn't be Bloody Mary out there.
Oh my gosh, it was terrifying. So I did get an epidural. Everybody said it hurt. I didn't feel a thing. I guess I had a really great doctor.
He was super, super proficient. I mean, he was quick and easy. He talked through the entire process.
We had a ton of questions too because, fun fact, we were 39 weeks pregnant. So we were actually going to go to our 39-week appointment at 1:30 that day to once again tell them that I was still pregnant. And
safe to say we didn't make that appointment.
Yeah. And so when we were at our 39-week appointment, that's when we were going to discuss like our birthing plan, our pediatrician, like all these different things that we had yet to do. And then baby came a little early.
Yeah, so he came in and, you know, it's a separate doctor. He's not part of the hospital, but they contract out the esthetician? I can never say it correctly. Anesthesiologist, yes. And so he was very well-spoken, calm, which I think was really reassuring to us. He took the time to answer every question. And one thing that I really liked about him is anytime we were mid-conversation and Rochelle had a contraction, we would just stop talking and he would just patiently wait until she was completely done, because we all know that if he had kept talking and explaining something while she's having a contraction,
his hand like,
nothing would have been processed. So thankfully he was very patient, like he had done it before. Came in when it was time to do the epidural and it was like 30 seconds. This guy was boom, boom, boom. Okay, you're done. And Rochelle's like, okay. Like, ready to go. The hardest part I think was like the tape.
Yeah.
Like, they like tape stuff to make sure it's all secured and it doesn't move around on your back. But yeah, really, really nice and easy. So good job.
Yeah, so then I get comfortable and I'm like, oh, this is a lot better, except for the fact that for some reason my left side was like still having contractions. But
all of it was having contractions, but she could feel it on the left side.
I would feel the left side.
Yeah, no more contractions, just on this left side.
So, but then after that happened, the nurse comes in and goes, hey Connor, here's a menu for breakfast. It opens at 6.
Yep. Now, obviously she can't have anything.
So mad.
So I was like, oh, great.
I'm starving. All I wanted was my stupid sandwich before I left.
I had some really hard choices. I didn't know if I wanted like French toast or pancakes, bacon and eggs. I ended up getting French toast with bacon. So I kind of combined the two there, and I got a cup of coffee, extra butter, and some syrup.
Well, I got a yummy popsicle.
Yeah, and a bomb pop. Like, hey, I was a little jealous. Like,
about to run a marathon, have a bomb pop.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I didn't even know they gave you popsicles. I thought she was just going to be stuck chewing ice.
I was so mad.
And they offered her broth, but she did not like the broth, so we just stuck with the popsicles the entire time.
Yes.
Okay, so we get through that. The next big thing that happened, you know, we're still waiting for dilation, blah, 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 blah.
So I'm not dilating at this point, like once I've gotten checked in. And that was a part of the reason why we did do an epidural, because I had labored naturally for 5 hours with no progression, and I was like, can't do this.
Very little progression.
Yeah. So we did do the epidural, and then, however, the baby monitor, they were having trouble keeping the baby monitor and the contraction.
Yeah, it just kept shifting around. So what they decided to do instead, since it wouldn't stay in place, was go do an internal one, which sounds super crazy, but if you've ever gotten like a catheter, it's essentially the same thing. So we were waiting on them to come back to do that, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to the restroom and just, you know, get myself ready for this big moment. I didn't want to be like middle of that, but I gotta go, like I'm about to pop. So I didn't want to wait, and so I'm like gone for maybe 20 seconds. They had come back in, the restroom's in the room.
So we had like taken a nap too, between
she had taken a nap.
The time of like them messing with this. They gave up on it. They're like, you're gonna be here all day, all night, maybe tomorrow, you know, you're progressing really slow, blah, blah, blah. So then around like 12:30, probably?
No, probably 12.
12.
Like right at 12.
So at 12, they come back in to check. And
let me give you my perspective, because this is hilarious. I'm in the restroom, like,
because we're gonna be here all day.
A minute or two, like literally. I hear the door open, they come inside, I hear them talking in muffled voices to Rochelle. I recognize that they said that they were getting ready to just put the internal monitor in so they could track the contractions, hear the heart rate, etc.
Because right now my contraction monitor is like this.
Again, we've been at no dilation, well, very little increase in dilation, blah, 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 blah. So I'm in no rush, I'm just chilling, I'm kind of passively listening, I'm exhausted. Then I hear like, and it gets like more excited sounding. I'm like, maybe she like peed on them or something, I don't know, something crazy happened, whatever. She's got an epidural, she can't control all that kind of stuff. So I like casually come out of the restroom, wash my hands, put my mask on, and they're like, okay, and we need to probably call the doctor and get ready. I'm like, wait, pause. I feel like I just missed something very, very important.
I'm cracking up at this point because I'm like, Connor literally went to the bathroom and is pooping and is taking forever to poop and missing this whole grand moment.
I checked like my fantasy football team like one time, shifted a couple people around.
Ladies,
it was like 5 minutes.
Your men poop a long time.
Regardless, I'm like, I missed something. They said the head is there.
They go, oh,
Fully
there's
dilated.
the
Head is, they're like, what is this? Something's in the, oh, that's the head. Oh, call the doctor. Oh, it's time to go.
It's time to push.
Time
And
to
like
push.
literally, like the room is just like shifting and changing and rearranging.
You can tell
and
like the
phone
tone,
calls
they were
and-
like, I mean, they were fairly calm. They were like, okay, call the doctor, blah, blah, blah. And they started like moving tables around and I'm like, what do I do with my hands? Like, and she's just kind of like, it's happening. Like, she was like kind of happy at this point because I think finally, we're about to meet Remy. Things are getting moved around. We're getting ready. And
I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have a baby.
Yeah.
I thought that we were gonna be here like all day, all night tomorrow.
yeah, it was very fast around because we went from like 0 to 100 real quick. And
Yeah.
so once she got the epidural, I guess her body just relaxed enough and everything that happened naturally very quickly. So yeah, and then called our doctor. Get this. So the best part about all of this, and truly like a blessing, was we were originally not going to have our OB,
Oh yeah.
the actual doctor that we had selected to go through all of this with, because it was after hours and she wasn't on the overnight coverage shift in their practice. However, since it is now operating hours, she was going to be our doctor. So we actually had, it worked out perfectly. We were going to meet a new doctor that we hadn't spoken to before to do the delivery, and now we had the one that we were very familiar with, so we were very, very assured with that as well.
Definitely. And she walked in and she goes, I thought I was gonna be delivering a baby tonight, late. And I was like, surprised. She's like, don't tell anybody that you're only labored for what, 12 hours? I think it was like 12 hours.
Yeah. Well, probably like
From
almost,
1 to 1.
No.
Yeah.
Remy was born before 1 p.m. Just
It was like 12:53.
semantics. Anyway.
Anyways, 4 pushes later.
Yeah,
she was
very
out.
quick. Also, guys, you are involved in the process, so don't think you're just sitting off to the side staring at a lamp holding a hand. Like, no, you might be holding up a leg, you might be doing all sorts of stuff, which is not exactly how I pictured it, but was happy to help.
Also, the epidural, it like made the whole labor process enjoyable. And like birthing, enjoyable.
Less excruciating, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you were not happy, but she was not miserable, I would
Well,
say.
I'm talking about like when I was actually pushing.
Right.
It wasn't hard.
Yeah. You told me it was kind of like a pressure. It just felt like a pressure, but you kind of, thankfully, and I think this is another concern, the epidural completely like wipes out any feeling, but you still felt enough
Yeah.
to know.
I think that what I was explaining to the doctor, I was like, I think it's at that perfect time of like it's wearing off. So it was like enough that I could feel what was going on without it being painful.
Yeah, and we won't get into super detail, but safe to say, baby came out just fine. It was a pretty quick delivery process, like seriously 4 or 5 of the big pushes, and that was it. Baby was here. Remy is literally, as I'm speaking, waking up, so she knows her ears were burning. I mean, extremely healthy baby.
So
I
she
counted
came
all
out and the nurse said, you got those cheeks from your mom. Like, no. And her chubby little cheeks, we'll put a picture up, but her cheeks were so chubby. They went all the way to her shoulders.
Well, that might be a little dramatic, but yes, she had very chubby cheeks. I mean, she was 8 pounds, 11 ounces when
A
she was
week
born.
early.
So she was a big baby. We were all older, I'm watching her. We were all big babies between the two of us. So
But we
it
were
was,
also a week late.
it was natural.
So,
Anyway, I was counting all the toes, all the fingers, 10 in total on each. We were good.
yeah, and she was turning non-purple, which I was grateful about.
Yeah, like they're almost holding their breath when they first come out, and then it was like, boom, big breath, and then went pink.
Yeah.
Very much red tone like her dad. But yeah, very healthy baby, very healthy mom.